Time for our favorite portion of the program when we introduce Pat Odie Murray and a chat with Pat. And Pat, who's your guest today?
Well, today it's somebody everybody is very familiar with on the morning show. It's Andrew Reinhart. He is the Parish Life Coordinator for Planning and Healthy Parishes at the Diocese of Toledo. And you know Andrew because he's on the show every Wednesday. And he does a segment, I think it's called
Becoming Gift.
Becoming Gift. I want to say be a gift, but Becoming Gift. Okay. So I wanted Andrew on for numerous reasons. He's also, if you listen to The Virtuous Life, you're going to pick up a show with him on that in the future. But Andrew, you do such a nice job, I think, trying to integrate this sense of physical and spiritual healthiness. It seems like in our society, that's I know in my life, it's a tough thing to do. I just want to kind of talk with you about that. Give us some pointers. How do we do that? What are our struggles?
Yeah, well, it comes from my story, and I think it's easier to explain it with flesh on, so to speak, than it is to just sort of stay in the ideals and the ideas. But in my life, I went to seminary for 4 years. It was a blessed time. The Lord transformed me. I went and, of course, anticipated becoming a priest. And I realized it was a great preparation to be a father and to be a husband.
Right.
But coming out, I obviously had a great sort of foundation in my spiritual life, but it's a hard transition. I figured I would never have to wear a tie or do a resume or anything. And when you leave, you don't just have to get a new job or a new career. You got to get a whole new life.
Right.
And obviously it was stressful and I didn't handle that very well. And I put on a lot of weight. I was a smoker at the time. I wasn't sleeping well. And lo and behold, I ended up being about 400 pounds. Before it was all said and done. And with that, I was always very interested in the theology of the body. Pope St. John Paul II's great teaching on anthropology and ethics and how to live this full life. But I was always more curious about what would a spirituality of the theology of the body look like? Meaning not just to sort of understand the ideas and concepts. I call it kind of a Gnostic way to do the theology of the body. Like it's just this collection of concepts. But how do you live it? What would it look like to be applied? And I realized that my body, the theology of my body didn't look very good. And I had to clean up my act a little bit. And I did that by God's grace and with a lot of help from others. And as I was just trying to be healthier, it's just a million little things from changing up my diet a few times, tried, Weight Watchers, low carb, tracking, all kinds of different stuff. Did a sleep study, did counseling, was meeting with the doctor regularly, just across the board, working on just trying to flourish.
Right.
And I realized that what I was doing by trying to live this whole, complete, healthy life was, in a sense, a spirituality of the theology of the body. I had this sort of dichotomy between this is sort of my spiritual stuff I do. I go to the chapel, I pray, I meditate, I, live a moral life. And then there was this physical stuff I do. I eat and I exercise and I diet. And I had this kind of false dichotomy or dualism, sort of behavioral dualism in my mind. And the reality is everything I did in the chapel affected my body. You can hook somebody up to an fMRI and watch them pray, and their body's changing when they're praying.
That's true.
On the other hand, everything I was doing in the weight room or the kitchen was also affecting my soul. Right? I'm one person who is body and soul. So that was kind of the foundation of where all this came from.
Okay.
And as I've been trying to distill this down and it's just real complicated. Health is complicated enough. You throw in spirituality and it's like, what the heck am I supposed to do? I got an extra 3 minutes every day and I'm not doing any of it, right? And the way I've been trying to distill it down is, one, I think of macronutrients as an idea that comes out of health and wellness, that there's certain macronutrients in food, and it's protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Right? There's sort of these big categories. And I've thought, look, what would the micronutrients of the soul be? And I've started to think of, it's the transcendentals. It's unity, right? Being connected and deeply relationally in union with others. It's truth, bringing things in our life that are honest, that are good, that are according to God's design. There's goodness. There's living a whole and complete life. There's giving ourselves what we need. And then there's beauty.
Right.
And so in a general sense, whatever it is, whether it be the way we live, the way we eat, the way we pray, the way we meditate, the way we, go out in nature, what we're looking for is how do we fill our lives with the one, the good, the true, and the beautiful. Right? How do we, what do we give ourselves as opposed to what do we deny ourselves? And
I like that.
By striving after the things that we're designed for, right? Because we're made in God's image and likeness, and those transcendentals reflect God's nature. By giving ourselves what we're designed for, right, we can crowd out all the bad stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And it's interesting you talk about theology of the body, because I think so many of us, I'm one of them anyway, that when you hear theology of the body, you just think of its application to our sexuality. You don't think about it as a whole package, in a sense, that there is something, that should be applied not just to complementarity and being a woman or being a man, but something greater than that. What brought you to that recognition?
Well, at heart, what John Paul II, he's an ethicist, and he presents the theology of the body as an anthropology, meaning it's a study of what it means to be human.
Right.
And in the audiences, of course, he's addressing Pope Paul VI as, kind of lingering, needing a deepening anthropology around Humanae Vitae. And as a result, he goes in that direction.
Okay.
Right? But really what he's presenting is a foundational theological context for what it means to be human. And then you can take those insights and sort of apply them across the broad range of theological and philosophical topics.
Yeah.
Right? So Pope St. John Paul II applied them specifically in the area of sexuality and especially contraception in the theology of the body. And then he kind of leaves it open-ended and even says in the audiences, well, there's a lot of different realms I'm not exploring with these foundational ideas.
Right. So it is that sense of the principles, right? The principles that are laid down that apply to more than just our sexuality. Before we wrap up, we kind of as a society, I think, certainly struggle with all of this, but we also have kind of gone through this, you can weigh 600 pounds and it's okay, that it's fine. We call it don't body shame. It's okay. What do you do with that?
There's always a little bit of truth in every lie. Otherwise, it wouldn't be compelling. So the reality is there is a large part of our kind of body composition, our figure, our general shape that is genetically determined, right? If you look a certain way, you can sort of get smaller and bigger in that range, but you're not probably going to completely transform yourself. And I think this is why our culture, in so many ways, has sort of become obsessive about sort of like plastic surgery and other things that change the body in such a big way.
Yeah.
So there is a truth that, you probably aren't going to look like that person on the cover of the magazine if you never have.
Right.
But the reality is there is health and unhealth. There is living according to God's design and not. Right? So we're called to a whole life of flourishing. We're called to virtue. And part of that, I think, is living a healthy life.
Right. And coming face to face with the reality of what's going on with you instead of denying it, right? I mean, if you're weighing 600 pounds, you can't just say, well, I'm healthy. You got to take a look at that. Thanks so much, Andrew, for being with us today. It's always a joy to talk with you.
Thanks for having me on.